Hey there, guys and gals, friends and foes. Welcome to a very special Friday night edition of Back of the Cereal Box. This is our 4-alarm emergency broadcast. And you can hear us on Facebook. So we are live on YouTube, Facebook. So if you're watching, post a comment. You can interact with us and post a comment. We'll address it. And who are we? Well, I am your host, the prophet of pop culture, John Pica, and with me is the notorious, the infamous, the radical liberal, Lucas Leverett.
Hey.
And we had to have this emergency podcast to really talk about the news that came out of Disney Investors Day yesterday. A lot has been going around about it, and you know what? I'm just going to pop this up, Lucas, just to give our viewers a taste of what we're going to be talking about. This is what we got out of Investor Day yesterday.
Yeah.
And Lucas, you were saying you weren't expecting this to be such a big deal.
Well, I heard that that we would find out some news. And I just waited for it to happen. I would have watched the stream if I had known how exciting this was going to turn out to be. And, it's funny because when you show that slide, you're showing only the nerd stuff.
Yeah.
And there's still even other stuff that, like the scope of what they did was pretty wide. But I decided that it equates for the geek world as Nerd Christmas comes early. And oh yeah,
I love it. I need that hat.
Best time to be a geek and to be into this stuff. So I thought that this would be the appropriate reaction because there's only one thing that you can say to all this news: Ooga chaka. It's so good. It's so good. And this thing itches, so I'm going to take it off. But man, it was so cool to see all this stuff start to land. And I actually saw the feed in Twitter start to roll up yesterday evening, and it was already well past when I could really dig in. So like with my page, The Stump, the first thing on my agenda this morning was to get the news in and make sure people were able to see that had happened, and linked over to somebody. I think I linked to CNET, but The Verge and then all the regular nerd suspects, everybody's been covering this, and it's huge. It's so cool.
Well, you know what's really interesting, and we'll get into some of the stuff that we're geeking out about. It's interesting that a week prior, Warner Brothers announced the exclusive deal with HBO Max, and that they were going to release their entire 2021 slate of movies to HBO Max and theaters simultaneously. Right. And the collected internet lost their mind. It's like they don't understand the reason behind it. And it's not like they're cutting theaters out. They're just acknowledging the times that we're living in today and saying, look, people may not be ready to go out to the theaters in 2021. We don't know what is going to happen with the vaccine, how soon that's going to be out. And we're going to give those people who still are nervous a chance to enjoy our movies through HBO Max. And you would have thought they took a giant crap on theaters. And I don't know how you feel about it. I mean, I get it. I'm going to go to the movie theater, but to have it at home makes sense right now.
Yeah. Well, I had a video. I shot a video the same day as the Wonder Woman announcement a couple weeks ago, and I was going to put that on my YouTube, and then I procrastinated. And I thought I would have to kind of re-edit that to be less of a right now and more of a just discussion. And then this news drops, and I'm like, oh boy, now I got to redo this. So I ended up making a new video, and I've posted it, that basically speaks to that Warner Brothers HBO Max thing, intercut with some of my older footage from the Wonder Woman reaction, because what I was going to talk about was just the excitement of that. But the reality is you do have the people that are wondering, what are you doing to theaters? And then you have the people like me that are thinking, oh, goody, you're doing a thing to theaters. Because for me, this is going to force what's left of the in-person movie theater experience to rise to the occasion. Now, in one of the clips, and I don't remember if I ended up using it in my final video, but I discussed the fact that HBO Max is only 1080 regular HD. And when you go see, like Wonder Woman, we'll watch it here at the house on Christmas Day. We'll also still go see it in a Dolby theater because it'll be that much better. Even the 4K and Atmos that we have in the living room here isn't going to be able to produce that because they're not going to give it to you at that level. And this is going to teach the industry, I think, to deliver these levels of quality and performance. And what they're really hopefully going to be doing is meeting the weird pirate market on their level to some extent. So that's what I think the calculus is for these people. Like Max and Disney Plus, I think there's a calculus for them to say, okay, look, don't pirate. We'll give you a service where you can legitimately see this at a lower quality level, or you can go to the theater to up the game. And I think that's really starting to establish a hierarchy in the entertainment that we all enjoy consuming. And, it's not happening because of Bridge Over the River Kwai, right? It's us geeks in this era of our stuff being what's hot and then driving these platforms.
Well, so what was interesting about that, though, is this news started dropping yesterday, and almost everything that we're going to talk about tonight is Disney Plus release exclusives on Disney. There are a few movies that will be in theaters, but nobody lost their mind. Everybody is like, in a good way, like, this is awesome. And it's just interesting, the difference in reaction between the two different platforms. So let's get into this. So there were 10 new series and movies for Star Wars announced, and 10 Marvel projects, as well as a bunch of other Disney and Pixar stuff that we probably won't even get to talk about. And by the way, for those of you who are watching, make sure you post a comment. But if you would like to join the broadcast, I'm going to put the link to this broadcast up on the screen. And if you want to join us on air, you can. Let me see. This is amazing, Lucas, the technology that we have available now. A lot of people have been saying, how awful 2020 has been with COVID, but I'll tell you what, it has created these innovations in technology that allows us to do this, and for people to join us live with their webcam. So if you want to join us and talk about this stuff, you can as well. So, bunch of Marvel news, bunch of Star Wars news was unexpected. Most people going into Disney Investor Days were expecting an announcement about Black Widow and direct home market screening. They're still going to the theater in May. They were expecting to hear, that Shang-Chi and the Eternals were going to go direct to Disney Plus. And I think Disney kind of learned their lesson with Mulan. That offering that premium subscription service in lieu of the theater experience did not work out too well for them. So they're giving us both, really. They're giving us Disney Plus exclusive content, and they're giving us the movie-going experience. And I don't think any announcements talked about that premium download, did they?
I don't think so, but there's so much to absorb. I keep learning new little tidbits. Every time I watch somebody's video or read somebody's article, I pick up a new tiny little piece of something. But that issue is a two-parter for me. I think if they had a movie that was in more universal demand than Mulan, they might have seen a little bit of a difference in the response. So I feel like they may have been. Now it's not like they had a lot of choices. They didn't exactly have a whole slate of things to choose from. So it was the hand they were dealt. But I think maybe that model had some capability that we will maybe never know. But it's fine for them to go the straight route, the same as HBO Max. You get it at home as well. Now, a lot of this stuff is platform content. Some of it's not cinema release, so
Right.
we don't have to ask the question. But I wonder if they'll be adapting and doing like the 31-day model like HBO Max, because you get that overlap of 1 month to see it at home or the theater, then it's not available at home, and it goes through the normal ecosystem until it comes back around to home. And I wonder if Disney will play with that at all. Maybe they're kind of leaving that one uncovered and play that by ear, play that by the 2021 year. But I think that it's fascinating to see how much meat is on these bones. You know, Obi-Wan, sure, some discussion of that made perfect sense. We would expect that. But it's almost like we're drowning in a good way in series from both sides of the Marvel and Star Wars fence.
Well, let's talk about Marvel. And there were some surprises here. Secret Invasion. Now there had been some talk in the geek community about, you know, what the next Avengers franchise might take on, and Secret Invasion was a big storyline in the comic series about the Skrulls infiltrating, you know, the planet Earth and the highest levels of government. And this one is going to have Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury and what's his name as Talos. Why Ben Mendelsohn?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ben Mendelsohn as Talos. But
and he's great.
he listen, he is such a good bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
But in the MCU, the Skrulls, or at least his family of Skrulls, are the good guys.
Right.
And we saw them last at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, or was it Homecoming or Far From Home? Far From Home,
right.
Where Fury is on the space station and the Skrulls are building the Sword space station. So I didn't get to read much about what Secret Invasion is going to be. Is it going to be Skrulls versus Skrulls? Is it going to be the dire wraiths that are infiltrating?
It's kind of wide open. I think they may even be still writing. I mean, it could be almost. They can literally almost do anything with that piece of the story. So I think they'll explore the where the heck have they been part of it, especially with Nick Fury, and then they'll come in from there.
Another delight for me was we got a title for Ant-Man and the Wasp 2.3 or whatever, you know, Quantum Mania. I love that title.
Yeah. It's a big word. It's a mouthful. It's a obvious genre word. Like it couldn't be more Ant-Man and Wasp if it tried.
Yeah, and we knew early on this year that John Majors was cast as Kang the Conqueror, and I don't have the photo test. They did a photo test of him in the Kang helmet, and man, he looks great. I love how they did it. It's basically like a helmet with a blue visor. Because I always wondered in the comics, how does that work with him wearing a helmet, but he has a mouth?
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's a good point.
And Kang the Conqueror is my favorite Marvel villain. So,
well, really,
I'm super excited about him being the main villain.
I'm down here trying to cheat sheet off of like everybody's articles on my iPad, and there's like no one place that you can get everything. You really do have to explore the multiverse, as it were, of coverage.
You really do. That's why I kind of gave up on trying to find everything and just thought, well, let's just talk it out.
Yeah.
Now this one took me by surprise. Armor Wars.
Yeah.
So Don Cheadle is returning as James Rhodes, War Machine, and he is going to be facing Tony Stark's greatest nightmare, his technology falling into the wrong hands. What do you think about Armor Wars?
You know, it's not something I had really heard a lot about until these announcements. Evidently, it is an arc. I think it had that title as an arc. I don't remember exactly what I heard about it. Growing up a Batman kid, it's hard to try to keep track of Marvel. You know, having no ingrained background. You throw Star Trek stuff at me and Transformer stuff, I lived and breathed it. and a lot of Batman stuff. So I have to fill in these weaknesses and listen for those cues of this was an arc from such and such. I believe that is an arc that
it was.
No one ever thought would be made into a thing, and so
Yeah,
it was kind of mind blown.
David Michelini and Bob Layton was the artist on Armor Wars, and the big difference is in the comic, Tony Stark was around, but he was down flat on his back, suffering, struggling with alcoholism, and that's where James Rhodes really came to the forefront. He took over as Iron Man.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, it gives room for that. It gives some fun room, and it gives room to buffer between, like, will they move into the phase of Tony's daughter taking over the mantle and that stuff, but it makes it less of a all of a sudden what. It gives those midpoints in the story, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing with a lot of that. Right, they're trying to build the next generation, if you will. So they've started to really hint toward taking steps toward the Young Avengers concepts and giving a little bit of a foundation to what my kid will go see in his 20s, and when he's a young adult going to Marvel movies.
And speaking of Young Avengers, they released a sizzle reel for Ms. Marvel. We've seen some on-set photos of Hawkeye.
Yep.
And the new Kate Bishop character. They're really building out that Young Avengers stable, and including this one that took me by surprise. Yeah. Ironheart. For those of you who don't know, Ironheart is a character that was created by Brian Michael Bendis. I always get that mixed up. Brian Michael Bendis, in the pages of Iron Man, Riri Williams, who is a 13-year-old African-American girl who is a genius on par with Tony Stark and is a big fan, builds her own suit of armor and becomes Ironheart. And, fan reaction to that character has been very mixed. When she first debuted, there were social justice warriors who said, hey, a white guy can't write a black character. And then on the other side, there were the basement-dwelling misogynists who said, why are they ruining these legacy characters with, making them different races or different, genders? And can't we just have our traditional legacy characters the way they are? Ironheart, of all of the new generation characters at Marvel, has been the most divisive. And so it surprised me to see this announced as a Disney Plus series.
Well, I don't know if that controversy isn't a little bit low-hanging fruit. And I think putting it up with Ms. Marvel is an opportunity for them to kind of spread out the critique from the crankier traditionalist side, because with Ms. Marvel, you have what I would argue is a much more controversial, if you're going to be bothered and white, a much more controversial character than anybody else. So I think by putting it all out there at once, it's like, hey, look, there's this new stuff, and they're not remakes of the characters. They're generational changes or lineage changes in these characters. And I think they're taking it on, if there is going to be any negativity, all at once. And then I think it also spreads out for the other side of that fence. It spreads out the diversity of the material enough that they can say, look, we're doing everything. Do you really want to nitpick over who writes or, even who directs or whatever? I mean, there's a certain line that the purity test has to be drawn. And I think they're willing to take that on. I think we've seen Disney kind of take that position. If you think about Mandalorian, it's got 3 cast members that have had people try to go cancel crazy about, and they don't really seem to want to answer that. They're drawing the line at, okay, look, you can complain about these little tiny things, but they don't actually have anything to do with who these people really are, and they don't have anything to do with their performance, so bugger off. They're not exactly child molesters or card-carrying Nazis here. So I think they're just willing to take a chance and do the material and create without wringing their hands too much. Which is nice to see, because in a lot of cases, the entertainment industry bends so much that it's afraid of its own shadow. And I say that as the more
radical liberals. Well, there were so many other things announced. The I Am Groot series.
Cute.
The Fantastic Four was officially announced.
The mulligan over again. Like, it's so funny to watch. They just keep trying to make the Fantastic Four stick, and I think now it can. We finally have the machine, right? We have the platform, we have the universe, we have everything that didn't exist when it was being fumbled and stumbled before. And I haven't read up on the latest background of ownership and production and all that junk, but we've proven through Spider-Man that we can figure out a way to, be big kids and get along.
Well, the movie rights were owned by Fox, and then Disney bought Fox, and they brought all of those properties back into house, as they should be.
Right.
But here's the one that I'm the most excited about.
I think I know what it might be. No, I was wrong.
This took me completely by surprise. James Gunn and the entire cast is returning for the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special. And I think this is slated for next Christmas.
It is. Yeah. It's too fun not to love. I'm super thrilled to see that. I think it's a great idea. It's also a wonderfully retro concept, right? Because when we were young, there was always a holiday special. There was also, the Star Wars holiday special is the famous thing that everybody talks about. It's the trope. But everything had a holiday special. Yeah. And so for Marvel to stick a toe in that water is great, because I think it's about time that happened again. It's too fun not to. And if you've got all these streaming platforms, you might as well. And I almost wonder if there's a little error correction in it, because they can make up for the embarrassment of the Star Wars special. But it's exciting. Yeah, it's not the one I thought you were going to say.
What one did you think I was going to say?
So What If?
I am so excited about What If.
So I'm multi-level excited. First of all, I keep seeing people use What If. And as you know, it was one of my favorite branding projects I worked on in my recent years, when we rebranded Hypericon and included that What If as a summary of speculative fiction. And I've seen this phrasing used. There's one of my favorite breweries in Michigan. It says, "Chase your what if." That's their motto. And having this concept of a series that's based on just all the weird stuff, because if you're a casual fan, you see like zombie characters and you're like, what? And you hear about all these different, like, well, there was this one comic where so and so was doing this instead, and all these different premises play with that. And it's also a little bit of Marvel kind of looking at DC, with all the CW shows saying, that's cute. We'll show you how it's done.
Well, so what's funny about that, and Robert, I see you in the studio. We're going to bring you on in just a moment. What's funny about What If is it was an incredibly popular comic book series. It was one of my favorites in the 80s. And Marvel was doing What If before DC ever did Elseworlds.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of coming back around. Right. We have a guest that's joining us, and that is Dark Soul. Yeah, we can see your eye. That's fantastic. How you doing? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us and sufficiently creeping out our audience. Now,
he's
guys,
our disembodied villainous eyeball.
Yes. I will tell you, there was one announcement from Marvel that I was actually kind of disappointed by. And that was the trailer for Loki.
Really?
Amy Cooper.
That's funny.
I did not see anything in that trailer that made me excited about the show.
Okay. See, I have the opposite reaction, because when I first saw the concept, the logo, and I thought, okay, I mean, we all kind of know that what we're going to do is launch a show from when he blips out of that particular reality when he kind of looks around and says, "Oh, I've got a way out of this." He blips out of that moment in that flashback. There are so many layers of alternates and time going on just in that segment by itself. And so everybody kind of knew that that's where we're going to launch this from. But I think getting to see it played out a little bit to be more of what the concept is. And he appears to be joining the TVA, which is hilarious to those of us that are
in the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Yeah, those of us that are from this region. And then, of course, Dragon Con fans are losing their minds because in the trailer, there's the interior of the Marriott that's part of the Dragon Con.
I thought that's what that was.
Yeah.
That's
evidently, the TVA headquarters is the Marriott, the Atlanta Marriott. There are more than one shot in that trailer that show pieces of that building being used. So that's pretty rad. But then again, if you're filming in the Atlanta area, like you are, that's a building that would be on your list as an obvious location for alternate future crazy locations. But I thought it was cool because it really gave us a fleshing out of the idea that he's going to join up with these guys maybe as a rogue agent, and then they're doing some kind of temporal agent kind of deal. He may be experiencing a little quantum leap kind of deal where he's running in and out of different roles, and that leads to that DB Cooper plane dive thing. So I actually was really satisfied by it because I got to see what the concept was. Now, they could still screw it up. But
well, speaking of Quantum Leap, I think Loki is going to tie into Quantum Mania because Kang the Conqueror is a time-traveling villain. And if you're going to have Loki jumping around the timeline, someone's going to have to clean up his mess and the mess made by the TVA. And I think that's going to tie into Kang the Conqueror in Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantum Mania.
Absolutely.
I want to see Willow.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. Stick with the rest of the group, Robert. It's more fun when we get there together.
That's not his style.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Who sent me a... Oh, you cut.
I did.
Well, the thing was up, so nobody saw that you cut your cam.
Oh, I didn't. I was letting you be in control.
Oh,
it's okay.
Hey, Dark Soul, back off the mic just a tad.
I was coughing.
You blew my eardrums out. All right, so Lucas wanted me to do this so he could run and... All right, you entertain yourself way too much, Robert. So you're excited about Willow. Let's talk about Willow. So Willow was announced as part of the Disney Plus slate from Lucasfilm, along with the fifth and reportedly final Indiana Jones movie. It's been rumored. Now it's official. But Willow as a series...
Indiana Jones and digging out of the grave.
Yeah, I've got my own feelings about Indiana Jones 5 because I love Indiana Jones as a franchise, but I really, really, really did think that when I watched Jurassic World, that Chris Pratt, that was his audition to be Indiana Jones, and I really thought he nailed it. And to do a younger, because I kind of see Indiana Jones as kind of like
they've already done that. They've already done young Indy.
Well, yes, they have, but I see Indiana Jones as kind of the James Bond type of character, where he can be played by different actors throughout the ages. It doesn't have to be Harrison Ford. And, I love Harrison Ford. I love him as Indiana Jones, but God bless him. I think he's past the age to play Indiana Jones unless it is Indiana Jones and the Curse of the Nursing Home.
Indiana Jones digging out of the grave.
Well, I don't think we really know much about Willow or Indy in this particular context. So
No,
it's going to be interesting to see the angle that they take. I forgot, is Willow a show?
it is going to be a show.
And Warwick Davis will be in it.
Yes.
Yeah, I heard that.
So he has been pushing for a sequel or follow up to that movie for years. He's stated that it is his favorite role, and that he felt like the world of Willow had a lot more to explore and a lot more to offer. And
That's about right.
I don't think Val Kilmer will be in it, though.
probably not. I don't know what to expect from it, but Willow is one of my favorite, fantasy movies. I love that. Val Kilmer was brilliant in that, like he was in everything he did back then.
I liked him best as the Saint.
That he did a good job. That showcased him as an actor and a character actor, but it left a lot to be desired as a story. But I mean, what have we heard about Willow? Anything?
I don't have a clue, and I don't even know. I'd have to go back and watch it to remember how much I felt like they could continue that storyline at all. But I would say that this could take up any place in that universe. I mean, when you've only got one movie, right? There's never been like a cartoon or something.
No. Well, see, the thing about it is they would have to be later because Warwick Davis ain't young no more.
Right. Unless it's some kind of like Hobbit
Willow Jr.,
where he's telling or writing a story, and then we bump back to his youth or something. There's a lot of room. There's a lot of room. There's less room for Indy, but I do like what you said, Johnny, about the idea of switching up the actors. I think that has to be next if they want to do more Indy. I think they have to just do that. There's nothing wrong necessarily with doing that. I don't think there's never really been much chronology in Bond. Now there's a distinct series of stories, but in general, I think you're taking most of Bond kind of piecemeal, and you could easily do that with Indiana Jones.
Yeah, I agree.
You can imply that certain things haven't happened yet. You could have throwaway lines on the realm of, well, next thing you know, I'll be hunting the Grail, like stuff like that to kind of give you a placement. Okay, this happened before that. And then I love the idea that Chris Pratt could be. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. So, and they could go into that. I mean, they could have old man Indy is telling somebody else to pick it up, or he's reflecting back to something, or who knows. They could launch that off at the end of this. I think Harrison Ford probably has a little bit more left to give the role if they shoot it wisely. But it's not much. He's up there. Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing wrong with admitting that. I mean, nobody wanted to see that last Rambo movie. Right. Sylvester Stallone was,
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, because he was way past being John Rambo.
Yeah.
But so a lot of stuff coming out of Lucasfilm, and I only pulled a couple that really, from a graphic standpoint, caught my attention. But we can talk about what's interesting you. Rangers of the New Republic.
That one was random.
Yeah, this came out.
Exactly. You know who that is, don't you?
Yeah, it's the X-wing pilot.
It's Cara.
Oh,
it's going to be Cara Dune.
You think it's Cara Dune thing? That could be a thing.
Yeah.
But isn't she a drop trooper?
Yeah, I mean.
No.
She was. She was a drop trooper.
She became a marshal, a ranger.
Right.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, because it is New Republic.
Right. Huh. And they have said that this is a spin-off of The Mandalorian. So
okay. Yeah, that might be it.
But that's all they've said. And I thought, well, maybe this is following the adventures of one of the X-Wing squadrons, but we're getting a movie. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
The other spin-off of The Mandalorian, and when I saw this, I thought, this can't be real. And I had to ask my friends who are insiders with Lucasfilm, is this real? And he came back and said, all of it.
Oh yeah. Well, this
Ahsoka.
was the one thing that we kind of knew once they debuted the character in Mandalorian.
We would see her again.
We kind of knew that this was in the cards. I think there was a lot of buzz about the series being a potential thing. I just don't think anybody expected it to be right up front. Ta-da! Here it's coming at you, which I think is great. I'm down. And this is not a character that I follow. This is a character that means more to my son than me. My kid has seen most of the animated stuff, and I just haven't had time. But I'm aware of the weight in the lore that Ahsoka carries and how important the character is. So when she shows up on Mandalorian, I was all in. I honestly don't think I've giggled and cackled and cheered like that for anything on TV in quite a while, and definitely not anything Star Wars, even in a movie theater. I'm still pretty sure that episode where she debuted in Mandalorian, for me, is still wrestling with Rogue One on best Star Wars media I've seen.
I agree with you.
And I struggle with whether or not Rogue One is the best Star Wars media I've seen. I'm talking movies overall. So
that episode exactly copied the Old West and the Samurai. Exactly.
It was
almost to
the scene. Star Wars envelope.
Yeah, which was intentional. But, a lot of people were saying, is this a backdoor pilot for an Ahsoka series? And I was like, maybe. I don't know. But clearly it was. And I will tell you.
You had to know it was because of the money they put in bringing in a high-level actor, the other money they put in creating the character.
Well, for me, she is my all-time favorite Star Wars character. I was highly invested into the Clone Wars and the Rebels. And for me, the first 4 minutes of that episode with her, appearing in and out of the mist that for me was equatable to Darth Vader in Rogue One going through the Rebel ship. Yeah. I mean, I squealed like a little girl.
Oh, ditto.
If they do not kill him in the series, there'll be something coming out on Boba too at some point.
That could be a thing, maybe, but they'll have to change actors or something. This whole old tubby Boba Fett thing's only got so many legs. Now, I just watched the most recent episode.
He looked good.
Yeah. Oh, the revamp. I guess I assume people that watch this know that we were going to talk about a lot of things, but this could be a spoiler thing if you're really hung up on details. But Boba Fett comes walking out looking like the day he bought the armor in this most recent episode, which we only watched at 7:00 tonight. So
yeah,
no dent. There was no dent.
No, it was still there. It was still there. The dent in the helmet was still there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and look at that.
But everything
it was there.
No, it was, but everything had a fresh paint job, which at first I was like, but it makes sense that he would, it's a new start. It's a fresh start. He's a hero now. And
and we don't know how much time really transpired. There's easily days between every time we see these characters, if not a week or two. And so if they're busy plotting and he's just sitting there in Slave One with nothing else going on, it makes perfect sense that he'd finally clean it up after all the bullshit. I mean, he's been through everything. He's been through it. He's been through it. If you take his whole journey that we've seen, that's a lot. And then you take the implied gaps of time, that's a lot more. So his first time to sit back and he's got his possessions and his ship and he's comfortable with some allies, it makes sense that he would be able to just kind of do a little. And my idea of painting things in sci-fi has been forever changed by The Expanse. So, since it's evidently as easy as just going, of course he repainted it in the future in other galaxies and in the past of other galaxies.
So I didn't pull the individual graphics, but they're all here. We're getting a Lando series with Donald Glover reprising his role as Lando Calrissian, and I think it's a backdoor sequel to the Solo movie.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
It's how big of a series do we know?
I just know that it's a series. Now, what was surprising, and you can barely see it up here in the corner, is the logo for Obi-Wan Kenobi. They did reveal that that's just going to be 4 episodes.
Yeah.
A 4-episode miniseries. So kind
That's
of a movie. Yeah. I don't know how you can turn a series, old Ben hiding out in the desert, how you can turn that into a long series.
Right.
So,
I think it's going to work as a mini. And we need to see more media overall that understands how to do a good thing and go away.
Yes. I agree.
And so that's fine. I'm fine with that. It's there have been a few Netflix limited series and HBO stuff. There's been a lot of stuff where they've had the discretion to say, we're going to tell a story and then we're going to go home. And we'll go make another thing some other time. We're not going to try to just keep milking. And the Lando thing, I think, could be like that. That's kind of why I asked, especially with Glover, because he ain't cheap now.
No.
That's an expensive production to mount.
But we also got a teaser trailer on Andor, the Cassian Andor series, which I got to be honest with you guys, I didn't care one lick about. I was like, does anyone really want to see the series? But after the sizzle reel, I'm kind of anxious to see this.
Well, I disconnected the name.
So does this come up right before the scene to where he's in the alley?
We don't. It's
prior to all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't know where.
We're gonna get to see the bad things he's done in the name of the rebellion.
Right. And I totally spaced on the name when I saw all the announcements. I was like, oh, that's neat. I know that word. And I completely spaced on the reference of him. For some reason, it just, in my head, it just doesn't click unless you say his whole name.
Right.
And once I saw his face, like, oh, it's him. Oh my gosh. Wow. Because isn't there a world in maybe it's not Star Wars, but I feel like that's the name of a planet in something I've watched. Yeah. It could be a Star Trek thing.
Endor.
No, Endor, yeah. But I feel like there's an Andor or something.
There could be.
Oh, it's Andorians. That's why it messes with me.
Okay.
It's Star Trek Andorians. So it didn't click at all until I put the face with the name, like, oh, wow, right. And I'm kind of stoked for that.
Yeah, so I'm anxious to see it now. Star Wars Visions. This one came out of left field for me too. Yep. It is a collection of shorts by, according to their promo, the greatest anime creators in the world.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of anime, but you know what?
In other words, it's fan anime that they've turned around and packaged.
Could be. It could be that they've decided to just go ahead and diversify the medium and recruit some of the cool.
Lucasfilm.
I've seen on YouTube. There's some fan anime.
No, Robert. Lucasfilm does not recycle other people's work. That is not.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Something they do.
But I'm hearing that it's a what if, but Star Wars.
It could be
riffing on the same idea of the Marvel what if, but it's a Star Wars take on that.
Now I
read at least.
Now the last 3 that are here, Star Wars: A Droid Story. You know what? I didn't look up anything about that.
That sounds like Droids, the old cartoon.
I think I remember seeing something about it being like the other droids that are banging around on Tatooine, and maybe what's the one with the bad motivator that shows up in Mandalorian? It's got the little burn mark on the top. It's the one that Luke whines.
The red one.
Yeah, R5D4.
Yeah, the one that Luke whines about. But I don't really remember.
This one has a bad motivator.
Exactly. And I don't remember if it's animated or not.
I don't either. I just kind of Didn't even register that one.
I'm over here cheating like crazy.
Is Acolyte going to be Darth Maul?
No. So
it's even older, I think.
Yeah. The Acolyte takes place at the end of the High Republic. So, like the Knights of the Old Republic era. And in the new canon, they don't call it the Old Republic; they call it the High Republic. So this is like the foundation of the Sith Order. Now, Bad Batch is by Dave Filoni and the Clone Wars crew, following that batch of clone troopers that didn't take to the programming. Those episodes of the Clone Wars, I really didn't care that much for, but watching this trailer, I was really kind of excited. I got that,
it's pretty cool.
Dirty Dozen kind of feeling from it.
Yeah. Droid Story is C-3PO and R2-D2, and it's an animated series.
Okay.
It's Droids.
Yeah, kind of.
It's a remake of Droids.
I just scrolled down on The Verge far enough to see Pixar Lightyear series. That makes me happy.
Yeah, that's a new series. Now, here's the one that I want to kind of prognosticate on.
I think I know where you're going with this one.
Rogue Squadron.
Yes.
So Rogue Squadron has been a property that fans have clamored for a long time. And this is going to be a movie, but it's directed by Patty Jenkins, the director of Wonder Woman. And at the risk of offending part of our audience, she's a pretty well-known social justice warrior.
That's fair.
And it suggests to me that, we've heard rumors that there's kind of this infighting at Lucasfilm between, Filoni and Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy, who Kathleen Kennedy really wants to take Star Wars in this social justice direction, focus on diversity. And those are good things. Those are not bad things, but the fan base did not react well to her fingerprints on The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. And so I think Rogue Squadron, with her hiring Patty Jenkins, might cause some basement-dwelling fanboys to spiral into a frenzy.
Maybe. I'm just excited because it appears to pick up after Rogue One. And the teaser for it is just fantastic. It looks very I don't like praising vertical video platforms, but it has a very TikTok feel, very personal feel. It's like she's carrying the camera and she's talking about her life. And she talks about her dad as a fighter pilot being an inspiration, which is kind of neat. And then you get the pan around to the X-Wing on the tarmac, and she's talking about being able to bring all of her family history and her love of the genre together. It's a pretty exciting way to present the concept. And that's something I'm really happy about, is that we've had all these different approaches. If you watch this whole package of content from Disney, it's a lot of different ways of introducing content. There are storyboards, there are motion graphics, there are logos in their ether floating in blackness with nothing else. There are full-fledged trailers. There are the sizzle reels, which is kind of just a fancy way of saying trailer, but remember, this stuff is built for the investor meeting, so it needs to have fan pop, but it needs to also have the, I'm a professional business person with money interests. I'm going to sit down and watch a sizzle reel and whatever. So, all the other outlets call it trailer when they repost it. But it's great to see all these mediums to express the work that's coming. And I think that's actually maybe been a side effect of where we are right now. Because if you think back to DC, think back to the DC, what was the convention, the virtual convention this summer?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Think of the name of the damn thing, but the Fandome.
Fandome, yeah, DC Fandome.
They had stuff that you could tell, like Black Adam would have been a trailer, but COVID. So they did all these motion comic frames to introduce that. And I think we've learned this year that we can tease media and get fans excited in a lot of ways. It doesn't have to be a trailer with footage. It can be a multitude of things. And it was really cool to see her video introducing the concept. I'm actually kind of excited to see where it goes just because it's Rogue Squadron. And that has so much potential. So we'll see.
Is the Fantastic Four going to be another flop?
No.
Probably not. But it is Fantastic Four and it may be cursed.
Well, they're going to introduce the Fantastic Four through little, stingers at the end of other movies and, with little Easter eggs. Now, what was interesting about the Investor Day was they only just, like in passing, mentioned Black Panther 2. No details about that. There was nothing official announced about Spider-Man 3. A lot of rumors floating out there.
Well, evidently it's going to be multiverse and Garfield is coming back in.
That's not been confirmed by Marvel.
Nerdist was reporting on it like it was a fact. But maybe that could be premature. I'm going to scroll my...
Yeah, I think that's all premature rumors right now. Or it's Sony trying to, have fanboys have wet dreams and force Marvel into something that they weren't planning to do.
It does say Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange will be appearing in the still unnamed Spider-Man sequel.
Yeah, that has been confirmed.
So I love the idea if it is multiverse, and if they are going to, why stop there? Let's bring Toby. We're going to do it.
It will be after Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. What in the world was that? Is there some kind of beast on the line?
Robert's shaving with his microphone again.
I guess. So we're going to have Doctor Strange 2, the Multiverse of Madness, and then after that will be Spider-Man 3. So with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantum Mania, and Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, and Wanda Maximoff, her reality-bending powers, it may be opening up the floodgates for Spider-Man 3 into the multiverse kind of concept. But it's the rumors keep adding characters.
Right.
And now the latest rumor is that Charlie Cox is going to be returning as Daredevil. And I will say that if Charlie Cox returns, he will not be Daredevil. He will be Matt Murdock, who we might see Matt Murdock and Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, arguing back and forth over who's going to represent Peter Parker, but I don't think we'll see him as Daredevil. We'll see him as Matt Murdock.
I want to rewind real quick to your Black Panther thing.
Okay.
That was the first thing I saw yesterday come across the radar. And it was a normal news outlet. It was like CNN or somebody had posted a brief story, and it said that Marvel has announced that they will not recast Black Panther. And all of these people were kind of talking about it like, oh, okay. And like they obviously are from the normie verse. They don't know. And then a lot of people were saying, somebody said, well, what are they going to do then? And one guy's like, well, Shuri, duh. And then a whole bunch of nerds commented and said, you clearly need to know the source material. But I think it's interesting that they were so careful to hedge. I hope they're not trying to surprise people with this concept, because anybody that does a modicum of Google research will know that his little sister inherits the mantle at some point. And I think that's where that's going to obviously go. I think when he passed away, we all knew that Boseman would probably not get recast, and that they would just move on and jump the story up. Maybe something they were saving for the third or fourth film. Now it'll become the key to the main thing. And the language they used of explore the rich characters established in the world of Wakanda or whatever they said, that obviously makes sense that that's where we're going to take this.
Well, before we're coming up on the hour, and before we
speaking of She-Hulk, who is the lady playing her?
Tiana, what is her name? She's someone I'm not familiar with, but she looks good in the promo images, in the concept art that they've created. But we're coming up on an hour. Time to call it a night. But before we do, I have one question. Lucas, is what they gave us going to be too much?
I think that it looks like a lot right now, but we're talking about a slate that extends through 2022. So I don't know that this is that much different than when they've had major phase announcements for the Marvel films. It looks like a lot on a screen together, but I think it spaces out pretty well, especially these Star Wars series. They're all they're concurrent. They're all happening right after each other. So it's like you get done watching Mandalorian, you'll be able to watch the next series and then the next series. And they're almost adopting the HBO model, which is really smart. You know, you never really got to watch, I don't know what was on at the same time as Sopranos. Might have been Big Love. But basically, you didn't get to watch Sopranos and whatever other big show you were watching in the same period of time. You would get done with the one, and then the other one would come along. Same with Game of Thrones, right? Game of Thrones and another big blockbuster were not on HBO at the same time. And I think Disney has realized that's the way to do this. You give them a different series for each period of time within the year. You keep them hooked, and they never unsubscribe, and they keep your service. So I think it looks like a lot in a lump, but it'll spread out really well. In the larger scope, there is a lot. I mean, you still have several CW shows to try to watch if you're in the geek media sphere. You have everything on HBO to try to keep up with. You have Amazon stuff to keep up with. So I still can't watch everything that's out there. I'm still unable to make the time to watch all the things.
Well, you know, I'm a Star Wars and Marvel Universe shill, so this is like my must-see appointment TV, and everything else is kind of secondary. Robert, do you think we're getting overload? His mic is muted. I unmuted it.
Yes, I really do. I think that in my mind, it's the House of Mouse making a pretty good money grab and just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks.
See, I want to go that far. My only concern is that the franchises get a little bit watered down by too much, too fast. In particular, I'm concerned about Star Wars in that, because we went 20 years with no Star Wars. Then we got the Phantom Menace, and then we went another 10 years without any films.
Yeah,
some animation with the Clone Wars, and then we got the sequels. And fandom has been so split about the films, the prequels and the sequels, that I'm thrilled as a Star Wars fan, but I'm concerned that they're going to create awesome stuff and no one's going to be happy about it.
Could be, but I will say this: the big takeaway I got from everything was what a heap of creativity. The best thing to me about it is that there is full creativity on display at this point, which we've lamented over the years as genre fans, that there's not a lot of experimentation and creativity allowed by the old school TV ratings model. And finally, with all these guys owning these streaming platforms and having all the money in the universe in their bank accounts, they're playing around and they're giving a shot to some very creative stuff. I mean, What If and Loki are really big examples of creativity unleashed that we would never have seen when I was younger. And I think it's super cool to see them try it, even if it falls flat on overload or it's too much of a cash in. Whatever the outcome is, I think it's great to see the exercise of the creativity going on.
Robert, your last thoughts?
I really do think that it's going to turn out that it's more of a money grab. It just feels like a money grab to me.
See, I don't get that, but we'll see, won't we? Well, guys, I appreciate you joining me tonight for this emergency session of the Back of the Cereal Box podcast. You can tune in tomorrow morning at 8 for our regular show with our regular co-hosts, the pretty ones, Aubry, D, and we have a special guest co-host, the pinup cosplayer, the L Memphis, is going to be joining us tomorrow morning, and so you guys want to tune in at 8 o'clock. Bring your bowl of cereal, get ready to interact, post comments, and that'll be a lot of fun. So for all of you watching, thank you very much, and follow us on Facebook, Back at the Cereal Box Podcast, on Instagram at Cereal Box Podcast. And until the next time, we'll catch you on the flip side.
See you later.